Hello and welcome to the latest captaincy video and podcast of the 2022-23 season. My name is Joe and joining me to pick the best armband candidates for Gameweek 8 is Tom Freeman, Fantasy Football Scout's Deputy Editor. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. It's been a pretty eventful period in FPL, hasn't it, this past week? But we got our announcement yesterday. We know we've got 3 games off in game week 8, so we can at least start to plan now a little bit. I'm on a wild card actually now.
So am I.
Oh, okay, so lots to talk about now then, including obviously captaincy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm on a wild card. I'll talk about it more on the Scoutcast, but I had actually planned a game week 8 wild card as soon as that Brighton Palace game was off, because I'm quite loaded for that with that game, and I was missing some of the key players. And then when the other fixtures went as well, that cemented it for me. But yes, there's a lot of people now wildcarding, and we're sort of bringing those forward. So it does present some new options, really. So our teams are changing a bit. But before we look at some of those options there, I understand you've got a few words to say about a partner to do with the Champions League tonight.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about Fanslide. Fanslide is a really cool free-to-play. It's a live fantasy game, so you can play it whilst watching the games. One of them being tonight, which is the Liverpool fixture. So you essentially pick 3 players and you kind of slide them in at the time you think they're going to score the most points. Now, you get points for all the usual actions like goals, assists and penalty saves, that kind of thing, but also, you know, like defensive blocks and tackles. So for the stats heads amongst you, it's a really cool game to play. There's a £100 free roll, I believe, for the Liverpool Ajax game and the Man City Dortmund match. Now they cost nothing to enter, so if you're watching tonight and tomorrow, it's worth having a look. Download the app, and it's loads of fun actually when you're watching the game live. It adds a kind of like a new dimension to it. So yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, have a look. It's Fanslide.
Excellent stuff. Just before we look at some of the fixtures, we're going to look at the fixtures, worst defences, some stats, and we're going to reveal our top 3 captaincy picks. But before we do that, I just want to welcome those who joined us in the live chat. Chew, Vindy, Nuisance, BS, Philip Appleby, West Down Trading. Good to see the Philip Appleby, West Down Trading here. Hardcore... can't quite read that. Exploring. No, I couldn't quite read that because it was rude, because it's got too many consonants in the last word.
I did wonder.
No, it's not rude at all. Colm Bugler, Paul H, Carlos. Let's Talk Vinyl. Good to see Let's Talk Vinyl there. I was just playing some music just now on my record player. Christopher Barrington, Niall, Rayan, Joseph, Field, FPL. And we got loads of you. Thanks a lot for joining us. Do remember to press the like button and do subscribe if you're not subscribing already, and tell your friends to subscribe as well, because that means they can keep up to date with all these wonderful videos we've got. Let's have a look at these fixtures. So I've sorted this using the season ticker at Fantasy Football Scout by difficulty. And I've got a picture of Kieran Trippier looking like he's just scored a penalty like Stuart Pearce against Spain in whenever it was, looking very excited because Newcastle have the best fixture against Bournemouth. And we've managed to look at the postponed games as well. So further down, we can see there's no fixtures for Liverpool, Manchester United, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Brighton. If you were going to captain one of those players, forget it. It's not going to happen. So Newcastle against Bournemouth, Fulham against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest against Fulham is considered easy as well. So there could be some goals in that game. Then we've got Aston Villa against Southampton, Everton against West Ham, Manchester City against Wolves. We'll come back to that in a bit. Southampton against Villa, Tottenham against Leicester. I've got a feeling Harry Kane does quite well in this fixture. West Ham against Everton, Arsenal against Brentford, and then you've got Bournemouth against Newcastle, as we mentioned. Brentford Arsenal game looks tricky, and for Leicester obviously against Tottenham, and Wolves, they got the short straw against Manchester City, deemed the worst fixture. So looking at this, who do you reckon your armband might be on, looking at the fixtures for this week?
Well, I think the best fixtures, as the season ticker suggests, to the top 2 there, I think for Newcastle and Fulham. But for captaincy, I would probably be looking at, I think the one fixture which stands out, which I think should be a bit higher on that ticker, is probably Tottenham at home against Leicester, a really struggling Leicester side. And then probably after that, Man City at Wolves. Wolves, we'll talk about it when we look at defensive strength. I don't think it will be straightforward, but again, this is Man City. They can score 2 or 3 past anyone. So I think the Spurs fixture and the Man City are the two key ones I'm looking at for captaincy.
Yeah, definitely. That's good because the Spurs fixture, the Manchester City fixture, and indeed the Fulham fixture are 3 that I'm highlighting in some of the stats a bit later. So otherwise my hard work would have gone to waste. So let's have a look at some of these worst defences. So this is, we didn't have a game week 7, so this is the same table as before, but I've highlighted some different teams here. And this shows that the worst defence is Nottingham Forest. So with Mitrovic in particular facing them, they've only had 1 clean sheet. They've conceded 14 goals, expected to have conceded 12. That's it. Wow. Mitrovic is definitely in the captaincy chat. Has to be, surely, doesn't he?
Well, I've watched quite a bit of Forest this season. I think I've probably watched 5 or 6 games, and they're very open in every match. And I think they've got a lot of new players in that team at the moment, and it's going to take a while for them to gel. I think they're bottom for stats like shots conceded, shots on target, XGC. And Mitrovic is obviously thriving. So he's got to be in the conversation. I don't quite trust Fulham as much as I do some of the other teams like Spurs, like Man City. And that's why I'm a bit hesitant to back him for the captaincy. But if we're strictly looking at defences to target, then he's got to be in the conversation, hasn't he?
Definitely. And then also highlighted is Leicester. They are the 3rd worst defence. So Nottingham Forest and Fulham themselves, which indicates that Nottingham Forest will score. But Leicester, they've got no clean sheets. They've conceded 16 goals and they're expected to concede around 10 to 11. I've got a picture here of Harry Kane holding a match ball, which he may well do this time around. Harry Kane, wow, he looks like the best captain. But Son as well. Are Leicester really that bad?
Well, they're in a bit of a pickle, aren't they? They've lost 5 matches in a row now. They've conceded 16, like it says on the table there. 19th for big chances conceded, 18th for XGC. They lost to your team, Brighton, last time out, didn't they?
Record-breaking loss for Brighton, that was, for Leicester.
Yeah. And they switched to, I think, a back 5 at half-time in that one, and it actually made them worse. And if you look at Leicester's clean sheet record in away matches, I think they've only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 29 Premier League away matches, which tells you everything you need to know about the prospects for Kane, but also Son too. So I really like this fixture for captaincy this week, and it's as I'm on a wild card like you, Joe, it gives me a bit of flexibility to bring in a Spurs attacker, and that's what I like at the moment, and that's what I'm looking to.
Yeah, there are rumours. This you might be watching this after Spurs midweek game in Europe, but there are rumours that Son might be one of those rested as the fixtures start to pile up a bit, which would indicate that he would get a start at the weekend, we would hope. And I would, Kane, he must be. The rest for Kane, that's surely going to be like again in the Carabao Cup against, don't know, Wrexham or something, isn't it?
You'd hope so. He's normally a reliable starter, isn't it? Richarlison's coming in, but the fact they didn't play last weekend, I think it doesn't hint at a kind of a rest for him. I think he'll want it. It is still Leicester. They're terrible defensively, but they're not. On their day, they've actually got good players. So I think Conte will want to get that 3 points, and I think he'll start Kane in that one. And then obviously lower down on that table, there's Wolves. What do you think? What do you think about Wolves, Joe? Do you think this is a match to target?
Well, their expected goals conceded is much further down the table. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th worst defence, which arguably that would make them the 8th or 9th best defence. So the expected goals conceded just over 7. They have in fact conceded 4, which would indicate they've been unlucky not to concede more, which might cloud some of the judgment of people thinking they're a good defence. They are a better defence than the Nottingham Forest and Leicester, but Haaland is different gravy. I mean, he's going to break records while he's on the pitch. He's going to score, and so this would indicate that I think if you captain Haaland, you're going to get returns. I don't know how many, but you're going to get returns. I would indicate. It says 3 clean sheets for Wolves. I can't. I mean, what do you think? I mean, can you see them seriously keeping a clean sheet against Manchester City?
No, I think they've had quite a favourable run, haven't they? I mean, they've done okay defensively. I think they've played the best teams they've played are probably Spurs and Newcastle so far. I think they conceded 1 each in each of those games. I think that you summed it up well, Joe. I think they're a better defence than Forest and Leicester, but this is City, and I mean, we saw City went to Wolves at the tail end of last season, didn't they? In the game that De Bruyne got 4, and they're just capable of scoring 3, 4, 5 goals against most teams. So I don't think it will necessarily be a problem for them. Wolves have been conceding up a lot of crosses. I had a look earlier, so you get the feeling that players like De Bruyne and Foden could be quite important. If they're whipping in good quality balls into the box, then Haaland's probably going to do well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I think. Well, let's have a look at captain comparisons. So completely arbitrarily, I've decreed Harry Kane, Erling Haaland and Mitrovic to be the 3 best captaincy candidates this week. And by Harry Kane as well, you can also put Son into that equation. So we've got figures here for Harry Kane because he is the standout from Spurs at the moment. But that doesn't mean that I, and I presume you as well, would discount Son at all from this. So these show... in terms of expected goals, Kane is expected this season to have scored just over 4. Haaland just over 6. Mitrovic just over 4. In terms of expected assists, it's 0.7 for Kane and Haaland 0.76 and Mitrovic even less, 0.33. These are goal guys. These are not assist guys. Shots on target. This is where it. When I keyed these figures in, I just thought, oh, here we go. These are the lads. These are the lads we should be chatting about. None of this sort of 7 shots on target business. So Kane 12, Haaland 15, Mitrovic 15. There's messing with the big boys here. Looking at this, I mean, they're all good captains. They've all got good fixtures, and they're all Who do you reckon is the best out of this?
Well, they're all in my wildcard team at the moment, all 3 of them, and that kind of says it all because they're all brilliant options. Kane has actually done well. He's got 5 goals in 6 starts, but I think because Haaland has been doing that well, it's kind of overshadowed him a little bit when he's actually been ticking along quite nicely. And he loves playing Leicester. I think he's scored in 5 of his last 6 games against them. So I think he's a great option this week. I think Haaland has the slightly more difficult fixture, but he's topping all the kind of the key attacking kind of metrics, you know, whether it be shots in the box or XG or whatever you want to use. Mitrovic, I'm a bit further down with him. I'm not quite there with him as a captain just yet. Fulham haven't been quite as good away from home, maybe, but they have had some tough games. They have played Spurs, Arsenal and Wolves away, which aren't easy. So maybe I'm doing a bit of a disservice saying that. But it's just I have more confidence that Spurs and Man City are probably going to go and score 3 or 4 goals this week than what I would do with Fulham. And Son, you mentioned it as well. I mean, what a differential. I mean, Kane's a differential in a way. He's only owned by 17%.
I know. That's why I quickly checked.
Managers.
When I put him in my team, I thought, am I getting players that are really well owned? And I'm not. He's like 17%.
Not at all. And then Son as well. You know, I haven't got Son's ownership to hand, but it's not going to be much.
No, it'll be less
and I don't hate it. I mean, he came off quite early in game weeks 3 and 4, which was a little bit of a concern. But if he's rested in the Champions League, I think that's a good sign. And I do like the set piece angle with Son. Leicester are a team who traditionally struggle with set pieces, and so that might be another route to points for him. But they're all good options.
If Perisic is playing though, will Perisic take all of those wonderful Son corners though?
Possibly. I mean, we might need a bit of a hint with Perisic if he's going to start or not. And let's see, again, Champions League minutes. But yeah, that if he wasn't going to start, that would probably boost Son's appeal a little bit more. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good options this week. And I mean, we'll touch on the top 3s in a minute, but it's pretty close.
It is. Well, let's have a look at our picks then. Let's see what order we've got these lads in, or if we have them at all, really. So, just a reminder again: do press subscribe, do like as well, and don't go and tell your friends as well. So, no, let's you go with yours first. So,
Sure.
who are your top 3 picks? People can see them on the video, but for the benefit of those listening to the podcast version, who are your top 3 in order?
Yeah, so number 1, Harry Kane. Really good fixture for him. Great record against Leicester. 70% ownership. I think that presents a bit of an opportunity this week. So he's my top pick. Second is Haaland. Settled really well at City. Not an easy fixture, but look, if City go and score 3 or 4 at Molineux, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised this week. And then number 3, for similar reasons, I've gone De Bruyne. Wolves are giving up a lot of crosses, and I think that De Bruyne is going to be key to that. Multiple routes to points. We saw what he could do last year against Wolves. I'm certainly not expecting 4 goals, but I think he's another good kind of under the radar pick, because I think at City you immediately look to Haaland, at Tottenham you immediately look to Kane, but then you've got these options like De Bruyne and Son who are decent as well. So number 3 De Bruyne, but Kane's my top pick.
Yeah, I mean, I highlighted on the Scoutcast last week. How do we cope with Haaland as FPL managers? He's 80% owned, 79 point whatever percent owned. Most of those are going to captain him. His captaincy each week effectively is going to be 180 or so percent. So you're not going to get much gain, but you can get gain by getting the person who assists his goals. And so if we think it's going to be Kevin De Bruyne, which appears to be some of the time, can be Foden as well. But if that's the case, that's where you're going to get your green arrow. And the captaincy, unfortunately, on Haaland is just a shield at the moment because he's so well owned. Having said that, is my picks. Haaland's a number 1 choice because I'm that kind of dullard manager. But I also think he's different. Yeah. He's just a different type of striker that we haven't had for a long time. I honestly believe it's a case that when Harry Kane was in his absolute pomp, it's not will he score, it's how many will he score. Haaland is going to get me a goal and some bonus. I'm fairly certain of that. But it's a question, will it be a brace? Will it be a hat-trick? Or will he just go insane and score 5? In second place, I've gone for Mitrovic, actually. I really like this fixture with Mitrovic. He's a whole Fulham team, no matter if they're not as good as the top 6 sides. Their entire focus seems to be get the ball to Mitrovic and get him to score. He's the guy who's going to score. And I like that in terms of the captaincy. Once again, it's a case of when will he score, not will he score. And Harry Kane, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, Harry Kane arguably could be first or second here in my list because he's playing Leicester. He's at home. He is the talisman at the moment. And he has been, actually. I looked into some figures over the season, last season as well, and since January, really, for this calendar year, he's been the talisman, just pipping Son, who did get the golden boot, but he's actually pipped him for being the talisman, for being involved in the goals that they scored while he was on the pitch. These are really tough points, but I think realistically, Haaland for me, and these other 2, and Kevin De Bruyne, there's 3 more really good options, and Son. If you captain any of them, good luck, because I think there's going to be goals there. I'll be very surprised if there's not. But yeah. So Tom, good luck with your captaincy decision. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll be back not next week because there's an international break. I'm losing track of when the game weeks are at the moment. So international break, and then the week after we'll be back again for game week 9, and there's going to be even more people who will have wildcarded then, no doubt. So good luck everyone who's been with your captaincy decision, been watching us in the chat. Thanks a lot for your time. See you later.
Thanks, Joe.